Today we learned about graphing inequalities, which if you remember really isn't that much different than graphing lines, except for two things. First of all, if it's just a less than symbol or a greater than symbol, then when we graph it, we're going to use a dashed line instead of a solid line to connect our points. And if it's a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we're going to use a solid line. The other thing that made them different was that we shade, which means we color either one part of the graph. So if it's a less than sign, we're going to shade down. We're going to shade the bottom half of the graph, whether that's less than or equal to, it doesn't matter. And then if it's a greater than or equal to, we're going to shade above the graph. So I have y is less than 3x plus 4. I'm still going to begin with my y-intercept, which is plus 4. And then I'm still going to use my slope, which is my m, which is what is attached to x, which is 3. To make it into a fraction, I'm going to put it over 1, so I'll have a rise and a run. So that means I'm going to rise 3 and run 1 to the right, because they're both positive. So I'm going to begin at positive 4. And then since my slope is 3 over 1, I'm going to rise 3 and run 1, and rise 3 and run 1. Or I can go, the opposite of going up and right is to go down and left. So I can go down 3 and left 1, and down 3 and left 1. I want to get as many points on the line as I possibly can so that I know my line is drawn well. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect them and shade. So the less than sign tells me that my line needs to be just a dashed line. So I'm not actually going to connect my points together. I'm just going to draw a dashed line all the way through because this sign was a less than. Also, because it's a less than, I need to shade below. I need to shade things that are lower. And if you're not sure which part of the line is lower, if you'll draw arrows straight down from all of the points on the graph, then that will tell you which section of the graph you need to shade, which is this part over here. So all of this needs to be shaded. And this would be my inequality. So I have 2x minus 3y is less than 6. So on this one, I first need to solve this for y. So I'm going to draw my line, label my sides. Y is on one side, everything else on the other. So what's on the wrong side of the line is this 2x, which is currently positive. So when I move it to the right, it's going to become a negative 2x, and then it's gone. Now I need to get rid of the 3, the negative 3 that's multiplied by y. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 3 on the right side. So I still have y. 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. A negative 2 over a negative 3 is a positive, because a negative over a negative is positive. It's still 2/3. And then x. And then our sign here, well, currently it's less than or equal to, but because I divided by a negative in the denominator, that means my inequality sign has to switch to a greater than or equal to. So this is my inequality that I'm graphing. So I'm going to first identify my y-intercept, which is what's by itself, which is the negative 2. And then my slope, my m, which is multiplied by x, so that's my 2/3. So I'm going to begin at negative 2. And so there's where my point's going to go. My slope is 2 over 3. They're both positive, so I'm going to go up and right. Up 2 and right 3, and up 2 and right 3, and I continue that pattern. Or I can do the opposite of going up and right, which is down and left. So down 2 and left 3, or down 2 and left 3, and I can do that several times. Now I've got to connect my dots. Because my inequality sign was an equal to, a greater than or equal to, I know that my line is going to be a solid line. So it's not going to be dashed this time, it's going to be solid. And then I've got to figure out my shading. Well, it's a greater than. So since it's things that are greater, I want things that are above the line. So things that are above all of these points. So I'm going to draw my arrows straight up from all these points. And that tells me I need to shade this top part up here. And that would be my graph.